Hello and welcome to Odds on Serie A. It's Matchday 15, guys. As always, with analysis, tips, and predictions on Serie A, we have the one and only Daniele Fisichella. How are you, Danny? Great to see you.
Ciao Leo, great to see you. Well, very well. So it's another match day, another big match day that starts on
Yes.
Friday with the Juventus Napoli. The title chase is on, Juventus Inter, but also the fight for fourth spot. So yes, can't wait to talk all about it with you.
Absolutely, because we have that Juventus Napoli, Atalanta Milan, also Roma Fiorentina, plenty more to talk on this match day 15. But before we get going with the show, guys, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Now we are all ready. Let's go. Danny, what a show opener for Matchday 15, Juventus Napoli on Friday. Juve left it late in Monza with Gatti scoring the winning goal deep in stoppage time. Rabiot outstanding once again in midfield, scoring the first one after Blahovic missed actually a penalty, and then with the assist for Gatti. At this moment, Allegri is bringing out, I believe, the best out from the French midfielder, who has grown mentally, technically, and also in personality, I believe. For Juve, 6 wins in the last 7, trailing Inter by 2 points, but with the idea of making sure there is no repeat of last seasons when Napoli won in Turin by a single goal. Napoli, Danny, we don't know which Napoli we will see. At least that's what happens to me. There is a lack of consistency right now. 3 wins, 3 defeats, and 1 draw in the last 7. The risk of no Champions League qualification becoming quite certain this season. On Sunday, they were outclassed by Inter. The odds of Juve win 2.55 seem good value, Danny, there.
They are, but you have to consider that Napoli have only lost 1 game away from home so far this season against Real Madrid, and they are unbeaten in Serie A. Only lost 1 away game of the last 23, if you consider even last season. And, the fixtures list has not been very kind with Mazzarri in his return to Napoli, because he had to play Atalanta, Real Madrid, Inter, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 win, 2 defeats. So it's a bit difficult for them really to get going. But I think despite the crude numbers, there are some positive signs from Napoli. I think Mazzarri has been able to restore the confidence. He's been able to restore a bit of the style of play that we saw with Spalletti. We see players taking more risks, Napoli managing the ball well and having more meaningful possession. And has to be said that against Inter, if it wasn't for Jan Sommer, who pulled out a couple of stupendous saves, they would have scored in the first half. Probably they deserve at least a goal. But this is a tough one, because you go against Juventus, who are going to be compact, solid, and Napoli really suffers when they have to defend in wide areas, when there are transitions. And that's exactly what Juventus could try and do. Be hard to beat. Both teams are very difficult to have a shot against when they are really compact, but Juventus got a stronger mentality at the moment. And we have to credit Allegri, because I think with this group of players, that's probably the only way they can win and they can play. So well done to him to convincing players like Rabiot, players like Vlahovic, like Chiesa, who are obviously more technically gifted and are more prone to attack. That's the way to play for them to get the results. But Juventus are also very fresh, because they don't play in Europe, and I don't think it's by chance that they won 2 games so far in stoppage time against Verona and against Monza. Last season, Napoli were a world apart compared to Juve. Won 5-1 at the Maradona, 1-0 in Turin. And the starting 11 are the same. They are unchanged. So this is a question, and this is going to be really interesting to understand how much they have developed, or how much they have regressed, because last season Napoli were much better than Juve. Can they keep a clean sheet, Napoli, here? I'm not sure. Only 4 clean sheets so far this season. Juventus, on the other hand, is always the doubt. Can they continue to play this way and get the results? So I think the odds for Napoli to win are way too high. I'm going to go for both to score here, 182.
Yes, actually, people in the comment section pointing at that, both teams to score. Also, a low scoring affair. That is Juve Napoli. Great way to start on Friday. Next one, Danny, is Verona Lazio. After 1 point from the last 9 in Serie A, the Biancocelesti can now show, I believe, improvement, 3 consecutive wins in all competitions, Celtic in Champions League, Cagliari on the weekend, and Genoa on Tuesday for Coppa Italia. 3 wins and 3 clean sheets, actually, on those games for Lazio. But there is the feeling that even in good runs, they always seem to be in crisis. Now, disciplinary action taken with Mattias Vecino, who was left out of the squad with Genoa in midweek. Looking into Matchday 15, they have Isaacson and Patrick injured. Verona in relegation zone. Anyway, Danny, 5 defeats in the last 7 for them. But they played the most entertaining and most exciting game on Matchday 14 in the 3-3 with Udinese. How do you see this one unfolding?
I see Lazio with a bit of unrest, and you're absolutely right. I think there is the feeling in the Lazio camp and perhaps with Sarri that this season they haven't strengthened the team as they should have done. Last season they finished second, but it's common knowledge that they overperformed at some point. They were playing really well, but they kept 21 clean sheet in Serie A without having one of the best back four. Provedelli is a good goalkeeper. He can also score a goal every now and then, but he's not one of the best in Serie A, although he did a very good save against Cagliari in the end to save them. But I think mentally, it's where Lazio struggled. They struggled this season to control games, to shut game downs. They got opportunity to score the second goal in many games, and they don't. And then the doubts start emerging. It is true, they are in a good run. The win against Celtic was vital for them. They qualify for the next round of the Champions League, which is a very good achievement. But if you look at the last 8 games, only one of them has been over 2.5 goals. And this is a team that plays with a 4-3-3, with attacking players. And it cannot just be down to the fact that they haven't got Milinkovic-Savic anymore. Yeah. They created a little bit more against Cagliari. They did just enough against Genoa to advance in the next round of Coppa Italia. And it was a goal from Pedro who helped them to win at the weekend. By the way, Pedro is the only Spaniard to score in the last 15 consecutive seasons in the top European Championship. What a great player! But he does it for Lazio. He still does it for Lazio. Away from home, Lazio a bit more shaky. Lost 4 of the last 5. 2 recent defeats, one at Salerno, one in Bologna. And careful with Verona, because they come on the back of 2 draws, 2 entertaining draws. Also the 2-2 with Lecce, because they changed formation. They now play with 3 up front. Gonge come back in good form. He's a very good player. Last season he saved them really. Juric as well, big tall man, target man. That's what they need. Suslov playing as well on the behind them. I think they understand. Baroni understood they cannot just be defensive and expect to hit on the counter, because yes, they're gonna be on the losing end most of the time. Over 2.25 goals here. I like it, which means if there are only 2 goals in the games, you lose half a stake.
Perfect. And also, because it's a good point you mentioned about Verona and this more expanding football they are playing. If they play and they open gaps to run in behind, just because I was looking at both teams to score similar loads as well, 1.96 on this one. Yeah. We now move, Danny, to another very interesting one fixture in this weekend in Italy. We have Atalanta Milan. It was written in the stars, Danny. Duban Zapata was always going to haunt his former club. Dopieta for the Colombian striker in the 3-0 away defeat against Torino for Gasperini's side. Is now 3 defeats in the last 4 matches for Atalanta. However, as inconsistent they are at the moment, the reality is that Champions League spots are only 4 points above them. And more importantly, is like they have the individual quality to turn this around, especially once they have some injured players back, like Palomino, Toloi, Scamacca. And Milan enjoyed comfortable win against Frosinone. Luka Jovic scoring his first goal for the Rossoneri.
Finally.
I mean, if you get to see Milan in the Champions League, you won't get to think that they're like only 6 points behind the leaders in Serie A. This said, odds of 3 for a Milan to win away against Atalanta. Would you go that route?
Many times this season, Leo, Milan, when they had the backs against the wall, they managed to drag themselves back onto the feet, and so they did last season and the season before. Look at the game they won against PSG. Nobody gave them any chance, and they did it. Now, yes, it's back-to-back wins in Serie A, in lucky circumstances against Fiorentina, better against Frosinone, still without their man Leao. It's a very inconsistent team. They only lost 1 of the last 5, so it's not a bad run of results, but the defeat was against Borussia Dortmund. Only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 5, so they're not even that solid at the back. And that clean sheet was against Fiorentina, where Mike Magnan made a magic save at the end to deny Mandragora. The problem with Milan has got far too many injuries. They got over 20 muscular injuries this season. So they not been able to find a rhythm. They've not been able to find a good formation. And they do suffer in transition when they have to defend. The midfield of Reinders, Musa, Loftus-Cheek is good when they got the ball, but when they have to run backwards, and we saw them against Inter, against Borussia Dortmund, against PSG in Paris, they do struggle really to find the right position. This could be a tricky one because Atalanta are energetic, they play on the front foot, they like to take risk, but Atalanta at the same time, they are not in great form either. Only 1 win in the last 6, only 1 clean sheet in the last 6, and I wonder whether they are struggling now to keep up with the Europa League. They're doing really well in the Europa League. They qualified top spot, so that means they're going to play in March and avoid a playoff. But initially, at the beginning of the season, they were much more solid at the back. Yes, they had a couple of injuries also in the scoring departments, missing Scamacca's coming back, of course, in the new year. This could be tricky for Milan, on the other hand. But yeah, the odds for Milan to win, I think again they are way too high. If you look at them, Milan have done it time and time again. If you don't trust the full-time results, again, go for goals. Over 2.25 goals, 187. If there are only 2 goals, you lose alpha stake. But normally, Atalanta never plays a 0-0. They only did 1 0-0 this season against Juventus when Juve went to Bergamo and decided they didn't want to ball, they didn't want to play, and Atalanta couldn't score.
Yes, some people in the comment section pointing at Milan to win. There was Marco as well pointing to Milan draw no bet. Milan no draw bet, that is at 2.1 at the moment on average on Oddspedia's website. From Bergamo, Dani, to San Siro for Inter Udinese. The Nerazzurri run riot in Napoli. I think that for some time we were waiting for Nicolo Varela, at least myself, to have a game like that, like last Sunday. Not just for his goal, which was great, but he was commanding, he directed play for Inter in attack. When we see that 5-1 against Milan, this result with Napoli, the 1-1 with Juve away, I don't want to get too much carried away, but this Inter seems to be ahead, way ahead of the one that won the Scudetto with Antonio Conte in 2021. I know we still have lots to play anyway this season, but like the signs are there. They have won 6 and drew 2 of their last 8 in Serie A, won 5 out of 7 at home. I can't see how Udinese can inflict any pain here. There is no value in Inter odds to win, 1.31 as we can see there, but maybe a combined Inter to win and goals over 3 can push the odds up to 2.6. But how do you see this one, Danny?
Well, I see an Inter that is much more conscious and conscious of their own strength, thanks to the fact that last season had an amazing run in the Champions League. And they know they got probably the best squad in Italy. Well, without the probably, they do have the best squad in Italy. And the options that Inzaghi has are so great. And the way the team knows what they're doing is obviously, you can see it. You can see it the way they approach games. And yes, I think they come on the difficult run of fixtures, having played also Benfica away and Juventus away. And the performance at Napoli was exceptional. Of course, there were some individual pieces of brilliance, and I think Jan Sommer helped them, the goalkeeper, with a couple of saves. But in the second half, Inter in wide spaces and with the runs from Lautaro Martinez to Ram, they really have caused some damage. I think this season, what Inter has improved with the presence of Thuram, they are much more mobile up front. Perhaps they've lost the focal point that could have been Dzeko or Lukaku, but they are less predictable in the way the attacks and with the runs from midfield as well. And there is a good contribution not only from the attackers, but also other players that can score goals. One above all, of course, Çalhanoğlu. Look, Inter, they're going to be slightly under pressure because it's the 5th time they play after Juventus, so they might be second in the table. But every time they responded very, very well. And normally when they play at home, they do start games strongly. They've scored 3 times at home in the first 15 minutes of games. So the idea of going for an early lead from Inter or an Inter winning a half-time or full-time, I think will be a good idea. I like the over 1.25 goals in the first half, 199. That means if there is only 1 goal in the first half, you only lose half a stake. And a couple of words on Udinese. Udinese have only won 4 games in the calendar year this season in 2023, twice against Milan. The last win was at San Siro, so obviously some Inter fans are going to be wary of that. But then the other 2 teams they beat was Milan at Friuli, and they beat Cremonese and Udinese in 2023. Cremonese and Udinese sadly are no longer with us because they are relegated. So it's a poor team. It's a team that cannot fight wins. They got an interesting stats. They got the biggest differential between expected goals and goals they scored. Based on expected goals, they should have scored at least 9.5 more goals, which means 2 things. First, they create chances. Second, they cannot finish. Maybe as soon as Deulofeu comes back, things will change. But against a mean defense like Inter, it's gonna be tough. Look, I'm gonna stick with the over 1.25 goals in the first half, 199. Maybe Udinese finds the odd goal, but I think Inter are gonna start strongly.
And just to build a little bit on that, on Inter usually starting strongly, as you mentioned, Danny, Inter to win first half 1.77, which is higher than the odds for Inter to win at the full time. Next one is mid-table clash, Danny, between Frosinone and Torino. We mentioned Torino's great win against Atalanta. They have now corrected their form in the last few weeks with 3 wins and 1 draw in the last 5 to claim the 10th position with 19 points. They have 2 wins away from Turin this season, but they playing one of the best home teams in Serie A so far. 5 wins out of 7 in that condition for Frosinone. Actually, 16 out of the 18 points tally were won at home for Frosinone. They scored an average of 2 goals at home. Can we think of Torino scoring here too, Danny? Would you go for both teams to score?
I would. That's my pick actually. Both team to score a 191. Frosinone so far have been outstanding at home. Only Juventus have got more points at home than them. Frosinone are newly promoted. It's a team that has changed entirely from Serie B to Serie A with loans, with new young players, and they got 6 goal scorers born after year 2000, and with Soale, the Argentinian, leading the line with 6 goals. Only Rennes and Eintracht with 7 and 9 respectively have done better in terms of young goal scorers. It is a side that with Di Francesco has adopted and has embedded the manager mantra. They likes to attack, they play on the front foot, they do leave themselves sometimes exposed, but they're not afraid of pushing forward. Only 1 clean sheet this season for Frosinone, by the way. Maybe they should have dared more at the San Siro against Milan. They should attack a little bit more, considering Milan was depleted, but they are comfortable in the table, so they can afford going for it. They don't have to be cagey. They've scored 5 goals more than Lazio and 7 goals more than Torino. Torino, on paper, is a better side. Very good win on Monday, the best game of the season so far for Torino of this strange season. They won 3 of the last 5. Third goal for Zapata in the league. We're expecting a better contribution from him, as well as from Sanabria. Last season he scored 14, only 2 so far this year. Away from home, lost 4 of the last 7. They got a good record against Frosinone. They always won against them in Serie A, 4 out of 4. But as I said, I think it's going to be above to score. Difficult to trust Frosinone not to concede, but on the other hand, considering the way they play and the way they attack, and so at the back are not perfect. Both teams to score 191.
So that's the pick for Daniele Fisichella, both teams to score. Now we got Monza, Genoa. After 2 consecutive home wins, this Sunday could not hold the lead. The good news for Genoa, for the Grifone, was the return maybe of Matteo Retegui. They also have returning Junior Messias to their team. I don't know what to make of Genoa at the moment, because they're capable, Danny, of drawing 2-2 with Napoli or thrashing Roma 4-1, but at the same time they can be dull against Empoli. And for Monza, the last home win was with Salernitana. That was at the beginning of October, but they're still enjoying a good season nevertheless. To lose against Juventus is something they can take. However, of course, to lose deep in a stoppage time is for sure hurts a lot for them. Bookies clearly plays them as favorites here. Do you see the same?
Not really. I think, again, the odds for Genoa to win are way too high. 2 teams that I don't think they are so far apart. Monza lost the first game in the last 5 against Juve. Were they unlucky? Were they a little bit naive? I mean, they scored in stoppage time, and with Valentin Camboni, by the way, youngest scorer in Serie A for Monza. He's eligible for both Argentina and Italy. I think he's going to play for Argentina, but he played for both a youth level, and he's the son of Carboni, who played for Catania, which I know him very well. But I think maybe Monza were a little bit naive. I mean, with 30 seconds to to go. They should have shut down shop, and the way Rabiot was able to cut through the defense on the wing, it was far too easy. But Monza are an interesting side. They only played 1-0 in the last year and a half in Serie A, so normally score and concede. You should look also at the expected goals here and the great performance of the goalkeeper Di Gregorio. Saved the penalty against Vlahovic, but he's been outstanding this season. I will not be surprised if he's like the third goalkeeper at the Euros for Italy based on expected goals, because I think he's been outstanding. And if you want to bring a young goalkeeper, he's the one to go for. Of course, Donnarumma, Meret, Vicario are more experienced, but I think it could be a good shout. It should have considered 7 expected goals more, and in fact they have the 4th best defense with only 14 conceded, but that tells you how good it's been between the sticks. Genoa, I think when they were going well, they had Gudmundsson and Retegui up front. Now they got Retegui back, but Gudmundsson is still injured, and they lack a little bit of cutting edge. Messias did well against Empoli, first game where he actually has an impact, but they only had 1 shot on target. They got knocked out by Lazio in Coppa Italia. Genoa hasn't scored more than 1 goal in the last 8 games, but can they do it against Monza, whose defense is not great? Maybe it's a draw here, which I like it. But if you want to cover yourself a little bit, just go for a nation handicap plus 0.25 for Genoa, which pays 208, which means if they win, you win. But if they draw, you win half a stake.
You just said the word draw. Someone who's keep drawing is Bologna, because it's the next game we got. It's Salernitana Bologna. Another draw for them, this time Lecce away. It's a shame because they lost only 2 games in the season, but drew half of their matches so far. Impossible not to think what could have been in the table for them if they have turned some of those draws into wins, especially for a team that is only 2 points behind Champions League zone. Danny, definitely they left Lecce fuming because they allowed an equalizer in stoppage time. They can correct that going into the home of the team, bottom of the table. Only 1 win all alone for Salernitana, a 3-0 defeat against Fiorentina last weekend for them. Again, good value on away odds, 2.2 for Bologna. Would you point straight to that? Bologna to win, goals market, or Asian handicap market here?
Far too many draws for my liking to be absolutely sure Bologna gonna win, although they look good. And in the second half against Lecce, they dominated. Perhaps Motta should have started with Zirkzee from the beginning, but then as soon as he put him on, and Lico Giannis, who scored, Bologna had so many chances. Ndoye missed a couple of very good chances. They were really on top of Lecce, but they are the 3rd youngest team in Serie A, and they make mistakes. They are naive. They conceded a foul for a penalty, for a foul on Falcone, the goalkeeper of Lecce. That's the first ever goalkeeper in the history of Serie A to win a penalty deep in stoppage time, and Lecce rescued another point. They've drawn 19 games since the start of the last season. Had they won in Lecce, they would have been in the top 4. This is still the best start of the season for Bologna in 21 years. Italy 3rd best defense. They win games and they control games really well, but they are not passive. They like to go forward. Salernitana, on the other hand, they are the worst defense, 28 goals conceded, no clean sheet so far in Serie A. And Benoit Costil, who, by the way, is a former French international, played at the Euros in 2016, very experienced, made some amazing save against Fiorentina. Ochoa has not been in great form this season, and last season was decisive. So I think Costil is going to play a bit longer. Salernitana really need to win this one. And again, these are 2 sides that rarely play a 0-0, rarely keep clean sheets. Over 2.25 goals for me here, 192 for this game at the Arecchi.
And because you said that they rarely keep clean sheets, both teams to score is 1.93 on this Salernitana Bologna. From there, Danny, we move on to a great game we have on the Stadio Olimpico, Roma Fiorentina. A week ago or so, you might know better, I think Mourinho spoke of his players' lack of personality when playing away games.
Yeah, always.
And with only 15 minutes to play against Sassuolo and Roma losing 1-0, I was already wondering how harsh was Mo going to land again on his players. In the end, they managed to turn it around and won it 2-1, especially since Sassuolo got down to 10 men. It's now 6 wins in the last 8 for Roma. For Fiorentina, a comfortable win against Salernitana, with Lucas Beltran scoring his first in Serie A from the penalty spot. Roma at home is the second best team in Serie A this season. We know they always score and they hardly concede, but Fiore is the 5th best away team at the same time. So what's the answer in here? Roma, Fiorentina, Dani?
Look, Mourinho is grabbing all the headlines always.
Yeah.
But if you look at Roma, quietly, they are doing the business. Since match day 4, they will only be 3 points behind Inter and Juventus. They had a very bad start of the season, only 1 point in 3 games. But since then, they've improved. And when it comes to scoring in the last 15 minutes, they scored 13 times this
It's
season.
a lot.
Yeah, 5 times more than anyone else, which means they're fit. And Mourinho's changes are affecting the game, putting on players like Azmoun, El Shaarawy, Belotti, changing Zalewski. I know it happened against Lecce, it happened against Sassuolo. It happens all the time. They score a lot of late goals, and it's not by coincidence. Yes, it's true. The last few away games, as Servette, as Slavia Prague, they've been underwhelming because we saw the passive Roma that doesn't really play on the front foot. But if you look at the numbers as well, much more improved in terms of scoring opportunities from last season. They scored 10 more goals in Serie A. Having Lukaku and the partnership with Dybala helps for sure. And yes, the home form, it's really, really good. Now they play Fiorentina, who is a bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. I mean, by the way, they managed to advance into the Coppa Italia next round stages against Parma. They were losing 2-0 until minute 83, scored 2, deep in stoppage time, equalized, and then won on penalties. But Fiorentina, I think, is a team that when they are on their day, they are unplayable. They are quick, they are smart with the ball. In the calendar year, they've already scored 104 goals with the 2 they scored yesterday against Parma. That's a record, and there are still a few games to play. So probably they're going to end up with 110, 105 goals last season in the Conference League. Score a lot of goals as well in Serie A. But then you look at the record this season against top teams, lost without scoring against Inter, Lazio, Juventus, and Milan. So they couldn't score in those 4 goals, scored 3 at the Maradona against Napoli. So which Fiorentina is going to turn up? Are they able to manage the games against top sides? That's why I don't trust them to go there and win or maybe even get a draw. I think these prices are right in this case. These odds are right for Fiorentina or draw. Go for goals, over 2.25 goals, 199.
Perfect. On the comment section, some mixed feelings. Someone saying Roma to win. Fiorentina will disappoint Roma, but Danny Sipis goals over 2.25 for this Roma Fiorentina, but for sure a great game to follow, to watch. Now we move to Empoli Lecce. Danny, Empoli, the worst home record in Serie A and only 4 goals scored in that condition. They are only 1 point above the relegation zone. As mentioned when we spoke about Genoa, Empoli managed to save a point in their trip there, which turned out to be crucial in terms of the table. Lecce is winless in the last 9 with 4 defeats and 5 draws for them. Last season with Empoli at home finished with a 1-0. How do you see it, Danny? Maybe again goals market, but in this case the under market or double chance for Lecce. I was having a look. Double chance Lecce plus goals under 2.25. Also 3.27, but that is maybe a little bit
potentially. No, potentially. I think the under. This is a game for the under. Look, now Empoli did well because they rescued the first ever point of the campaign at Genoa. Normally, when they conceded first, always lost, but they managed to equalize with Cancellieri, who was a good sub, came on after 4 minutes. He scored. Not a great game in Genoa, as you mentioned before, only 2 shots on target. But Empoli are out of the relegation zone, having scored just 9 goals. Eventually, he's going to catch up with them. They can't just win games 1-0 or draw them 0-0. But this one is almost a gimme for them because they play against a team Lecce that only doesn't score many goals, really. And they tend to be able to come back into games a lot. They rescue points against Milan, against Bologna, against Lazio at the beginning, against Fiorentina. but they don't really score many goals. Only 2 home games for Empoli, by the way, have been over 2.5 goals when they conceded a lot. Lecce rescued 8 of the 6 points they have. So they often concede first and then they rescue points. But based on expecting points, so expected goals for and against, Lecce will be relegated at the moment. They will be third for bottom. They would have conceded 8 goals more. So very good performances from Falcone, from the defense. But it's a team that spends a lot of time on the back foot, if you look at it, or defending their own box as they did last season. For me, is an under here. Under 2.5 goals, 183. Under 2.5 goals and double chance for Lecce, also a good shout.
And Danny, the last match on this Matchday 15 in Serie A is Cagliari Sassuolo. Cagliari in relegation zone. Sassuolo entertaining and scoring as always, but not getting 3 points. To put it into context, Sassuolo has scored 21 so far in the season, and they are 15 in the table. And Juventus scored only one more, 22, but they are second. So the difference, of course, being Juventus conceded only 9 and Sassuolo 26. Like that is life.
And
is
Sassuolo
very
beat
difficult.
Juventus.
That's true as well.
And yet they're behind them, so it tells you a lot.
You know, at first I thought with Sassuolo, okay, the big deal of them scoring always was Roberto De Cervi. But then he left long time ago, and it doesn't matter. They keep being entertaining. And 2 weeks ago, the amazing 4-3 win against Empoli. This time they couldn't hold the lead with Roma. The odds here for a Sassuolo win are quite high, 3.1. The same we could say about Cagliari, but Cagliari plays as favorite here. How do you see it?
I think Sassuolo is a better team than Cagliari, but the problem is that that often happens in Serie A. They play for nothing. I mean, they're going to be saved. Although they are only 5 points above the drop, they know they're going to be saved. They're not going to go down. Every now and then, there are some flash points, like the win against Juve, the win against Inter. Then the games that you think they're going to win, they don't win. For a team that hasn't kept any clean sheets so far in Serie A, to win a game, they need to score 2 or 3. It's simple as. They're not going to win a game 1-0 this season. In fact, they conceded the same amount of goals as Cagliari. 57% of games of these two sides have been over 2.5 goals. In a high-scoring game, I think Sassuolo wins. They got more firepower than Cagliari. Cagliari, I think they were a bit unlucky against Lazio at the end. They did deserve a point. Provedella had to make a very good save. No wins in 3 for Cagliari. Now they are back in the relegation zone with the second worst defense of Serie A, 26 goals scored. Normally at home, they've been much more creative and they have a very good expected goals. When they play at home, some of those draws could have been won had they been a little bit more precise in front of goals. Again, it could be a draw here. I like it, 382. Maybe you can combine a draw here and a draw in the draw in the game at Monza. I think the odds are very good. But again, if you want to have a little bit of a parachute, Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Sassuolo, 189. I think they're the better side. If they draw, you only win half a stake.
Guys, that's everything you need to know on Matchday 15 in Serie A. But before we say goodbyes, what's your safe bet and Dani?
At the Olimpico, Roma, Fiorentina, over 2 goals.
And the ACA?
The ACA is 4 selections this time after the win from last week. And is good. Atalanta Milan, over 2 goals. Inter Udinese, over 2.5 goals. Frosinone Torino, over 2 goals. And Bologna Asian handicap 0. The total odds is 6.62.
Definitely some money to be made there. Dani, a pleasure as always to be with you.
Thank you, Leo. See you soon.
And you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for leaving your comment. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Bye-bye, and see you next time.
Oh.